Funny, we've been interviewing a number of people, and on these interviews, I'll sometimes hear about certain stages they're at in life, and they'll tell me about how they were just super driven, grinding people, and then now they're really trying to slow down and relax and enjoy it. And I'm listening, I'm nodding along, and I'm like, okay, let me know how it goes. Because you are trying to drift away from your true nature rather than just embracing who you are. I'm Michael Mogill, founder and CEO of Crisp, the nation's #1 law firm growth company. I've built my business through practice, not theory. Crisp started with just $500 to my name and has grown to over 8 figures in revenue over the last few years, earning a spot on the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing private companies in America. Our approach has been to take everything we've learned about generating massive growth within our own organization and help the country's most ambitious and committed law firm owners do the same for theirs. In each episode of this podcast, I sit down with innovative market leaders from the legal industry and beyond to learn from those who thrive in the face of adversity, challenge the status quo, and define what it means to be a true game changer.
This is Jessica, Head of Coaching Strategy at Crisp, and today we're flipping the script for another special edition episode to get Michael's take on why desperate teams make desperate decisions, how successful leaders stay competitive even when they're winning, and why measuring your progress against competitors kills your confidence.
A lot of people that you guys listen to on social media and that you follow on social media, if you actually knew what their life is like and you actually knew what's in their bank account, you would be very disappointed that you were taking advice from them.
That's coming up on the Game Changing Attorney podcast. Hello, welcome back to another AMMA.
Good to join you, Jessica. Excited to be here.
Of course you are. It's your favorite thing to do.
It is. You know, we were recording a number of podcasts this week, so this is going to be exciting. It's always funny because we record these, and then we know that they're going to launch in like a week or two, sometimes a little further out, and you got to be mindful of discussing like current events because by the time the podcast launches, the event may no longer be current.
Correct.
That said, I have a feeling that what we're about to talk about is still going to be, at the top.
It's having a moment.
It's still gonna have a moment. I think it's gonna have a moment all through the year.
Yeah.
And that is K-pop Demon Hunters.
I'm hoping for all year.
Yes,
I'm hoping for Halloween.
On Netflix.
I'm hoping for Mila's birthday. I'm hoping for all of it.
So here's the thing. Like if you're wondering what is that, it's a movie that came out on Netflix and kids love it. But I actually think it's great for adults as well. It's in the same like animation style as like the Spider-Man, like Into the Spider-Verse, like those types of movies. And it's actually kind of a funny story in the sense that I believe that Sony did not believe it was going to be successful. So it's like a Sony Pictures production, and they didn't take it to theaters. And instead they sold it to Netflix, like the rights to it for like $20 million.
Yeah. And
it goes on to be the most watched movie in history of Netflix.
It's incredible.
And it's just like this pop culture phenomenon, and it's basically like a K-pop, like Korean pop band. There's like the whole story
band,
and like
boy band,
it's but the songs are all great
so
and catchy. And I remember like when I first saw it, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be interested in this. But then obviously the girls are watching it.
Yes.
And then after they had it on for a few weeks, like I'm singing the songs, and the songs are catchy.
Yeah,
so,
and then they did a one weekend only sing-along in the theater.
Then they brought it to theaters.
Guess where we were?
So we went. Yeah, exactly. We went and saw it in theaters. It was funny because on the way over, so that morning they watched it at home, and then on the way over they watched it in the car, and then they obviously watched it in the theater. So the sing-along was it's just the songs have the subtitles.
That's literally it.
And it's a bunch of kids that go to the movies at 11 a.m. and just stand there and sing, right? We think,
because they can't do that at home.
How fun could this be? And then on the way home, we were watching it again. So, and I think later that evening, again, the K-pop Demon
every
Hunters.
day.
It's a good story. I will say in the theater, this was hilarious to me because I told the story of taking Mila to go see Superman, and the expectation was like the bunch of kids in a theater, like I don't know how many are going to be watching the movie. Maybe they're going to be like jumping up and down in their seats, like singing. I didn't expect people to be tuned in. Kids were singing, and it was funny seeing 90% of the theater like get up to go to a bathroom break.
Oh yeah,
like in the middle of the movie because it's all kids.
Yes,
but ours are pretty smart because they know when the songs are. So in between the songs, they're like, we got to go to the bathroom. But they could time it out to know that like I can go to the bathroom and can come back and
not miss a thing.
Because the main thing they're there for is the songs themselves.
Yes.
But look, I was feeling it.
Yeah.
It was a good experience. I'll tell you what, like that those types of stories, and it's also interesting that I don't know this story fully, so I'm going to probably mess this up, but apparently a lot of the girls that sang those songs were rejected by the K-pop community originally. Like
Yes.
they were never picked up as big
They
artists.
were too old, I believe.
And now,
Yeah.
like, these songs are at the top of like every playlist, like
Yes.
iTunes playlists and Spotify, etc., and gained so much notoriety from it because of just like what's happened with Netflix. So if you haven't watched K-pop Demon Hunters, I think it's a good movie.
It's a girl
right?
power too.
Take it as you will, right? It's a fun watch, and the songs are catchy, and probably, Halloween time, this is going to be like the one, like people are going to be dressing up as the Huntrix, which is like the girl band, and then I'm going to go as one of the Saja boys, of course.
Of course.
The boy band. So
Yes.
there's a little
If we
competition in the movie.
if we can get Misha to have red hair somehow, that will be a miracle. But she says she's Mira, so we're going to go for it.
And at this point, you're listening to this, you have absolutely no idea what we're talking about, which is probably the majority of our audience. Just to be
Yes.
totally honest.
If you've got small kids, you understood.
Yeah, if you have children, you know exactly what we're talking about. If you don't, you probably have no idea. And you're like, let's get to the AMA. So you guys submit questions. We answer them here on the show. You can text us at 404-531-7691 with your question. Jessica compiles them. We answer them here. If you're tuning into the podcast for the first time, we do have a couple other types of episodes. We bring on guests and interview them like a podcast does. And then we also bring back some of our most popular episodes, the encore editions, the best of the best. So this is the AMA. There is a fee for the show. If you get any sort of value from this podcast, you might notice that we do not run any ads and we don't have any sponsors. And that's so we can say whatever we want. Our guests can say whatever they want. And all we ask is that if you get any sort of value whatsoever, if I make you cry and Jessica makes you laugh, that you leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening to this thing. So with that, Jessica, what questions do we have for this week?
All right. So question number 1, Michael, I run a PI firm in Texas, and my firm has been going through a rough patch, and I'm trying to figure out how to turn things around. We've lost a few cases we should have won, had a client complaint that damaged our reputation, and had 2 good associates leave for competitors. The team feels defeated, and I'm trying to find that one big win that will stop the spiral. I have a really risky case I just turned down before, but I'm wondering if that was a mistake and if we just need to take a big bet to turn things around. What would you do?
I mean, look, things are, momentum is a powerful for when it comes to business, right? When you got positive momentum and everything's going right and the team's aligned, everyone's feeling good, it's like that's an exciting moment to be a part of. And then on the converse, when nothing is going your way and then you just have this dark cloud hanging over you, it's just people aren't excited, they're not engaged, and it's just one hit after the next, and it's tough to turn that around. It's the same way in sports. Like, it is a real thing. Momentum is a real thing. You can have positive momentum, you can have negative momentum. But here's the thing. I don't know that it's any one case that turns all of this around. I mean, if you've had a number of things not go your way, a lot of times it's how you frame that, right? Because who knows if years from today, you look back at those moments and say, hey, those were the best things that ever happened to us because they enabled us to make this decision. Oh, here's what we did next. I remember we had like James Amaro on the podcast, and he's talking about how his firm has grown so much and how they're more successful than they've ever been. But when he looks back at one of the worst moments in his life, which is now one of the best moments of his life, it's how he almost went broke on a number of these cases and had to rebuild the firm. But had that moment not happened, they wouldn't be where they are today. Okay, so you don't know what stage in the journey you're in. If you ever watch the stock market and it's like tanking and it's like, oh, when's the best time to buy, right? It's like, okay, right before that major inflection point.
Yeah.
The only thing is you don't know when that inflection point is, and you could be really 3 or 5 feet from gold.
Yeah,
right?
it's that little meme.
Or it could keep getting worse. I don't know. I think in these types of moments, here's what you can do. I mean, one is obviously the reframing, but 2 is you can create your own momentum. And it's because a lot of the things you're describing are things that are like happening to you. Like, these are external factors. But you have to control what you can control. And when things are not going my way or things aren't going our way in the business, I look at, okay, are we executing on the fundamentals? Because before we can win the year, we have to win the quarters, and we have to win the months, and we have to win the weeks, and we have to win the days. And if we look at it on a win the day basis, what does that look like, right? And is everybody like on just from the principle of like fundamentals, are we executing to the best of our ability? Are we executing on our processes? Are we following? Is there process adherence? Are we doing things the way we should be doing them? Because if we're not, you're not going to be able to stack wins. And that's what you really want to do, because the days add up to the weeks, which add up to the months, which add up to the quarters, et cetera, right? So it's looking at back down to like the fundamentals on a day-to-day basis at every department and every team. Are we executing on the fundamentals? Are we skipping steps? And this sometimes requires auditing. When you don't have good momentum, people start skipping steps. This is where you start to see inefficiencies, and inefficiencies compound. And then, mistakes get magnified. You wonder why, this is no different than a field goal kicker, right? Misses a field goal. Okay, normally they hit that field goal, but this time they missed it. Great. They come out the second time. Their confidence is a little bit depleted, a little shaken. Okay, cool. They miss another one. Okay, now they're feeling it because
all eyes on you.
Man, two in a row. I missed two in a row. And then they come out the third time, right? Miss another one. And by that point, they don't believe they should even be on the field anymore, right? And that also hurts the confidence of the team. But if you look at it and say, all right, like fundamentals, right? You know how to kick a ball, right? Like the things that are impacting you is probably the anticipation of missing now because that wasn't in your head. So your confidence is shaken, right? So what can you do to restore it? Well, when you're on the sideline, you're kicking a lot of balls so you can get the motion down. So now you can think independently of 3 points here that I have to score. And more importantly, like what is the movement? What is the motion that I need to do that I've done thousands, if not 10,000s of times? And it's the same thing in business. So I look at, are we skipping steps? Because if somebody is, trying to squeeze, it's like gambler's fallacy. It's like, okay, if I just get this big win, I can turn it all around, that everything is going to be great again. When in the reality of it is that what you have to really focus on is like the small things, getting the small, details right. Because a lot of times you look at what leads to positive momentum, it's the execution of all the little things adding up and compounding over time. So where a successful firm is today is really based on decisions that they made maybe several years ago that now have come to fruition. So it's not just based on something you did last week or last month or even further out, but it's really thinking about, okay, on a day-to-day basis, are we winning the day? And if you can answer that with yes, now let's start stacking wins. And before you know it, now you start to see positive momentum, and then you start to see things going your way. But it's not just because, okay, this external thing happened, we got lucky, we got unlucky. There's going to be things, the puck's going to bounce sometimes, your way and sometimes not your way. But if you consistently do the right things and start stacking wins, you're going to get more lucky, and I say this in quotes, right, than unlucky over time.
All right. Question number 2. My practice has been performing pretty well for the past 2 years, and I'm starting to feel restless. I have a boutique estate planning firm, and we're kind of the only big name in our market. I worked hard to get here, and I'm grateful things have been going well, but I feel like I need another challenge. My wife keeps telling me to just enjoy the success and take a break from pushing so hard, but I feel like I need something bigger to work toward. Is this normal, or should I just coast for a while? I don't want to create problems where none exist, but I also don't want to get soft and fall behind.
Speaking,
I was like, this is your spirit animal.
Yeah, I hear you. Is it normal? I mean, first of all, you're not normal, and that's why you're successful. But is it normal to feel this way? Well, chances are there's certain types of habits and behaviors and mindsets that have led you to where you are today, which is why you're successful. And those types of traits, for example, don't lend themselves well to the in-between, right? The in-between one goal and the next goal, and this level of just like homeostasis and complacency. Like you just don't know what to do with yourself. The same way I don't know what to do with myself when things are good. So a lot of times what founders do is they go in and cause problems. They start sitting in meetings. They start just micromanaging everybody, and just because they're just trying to find ways to stay busy. But when I look at this, it's like your wife's telling you to enjoy the moment, which she's probably right. It's probably good for you to celebrate those wins. At the same time, you can never really get away from one's true nature.
Yeah,
right?
She probably should also know what she signed up for.
It's like, what is it? Like the turtle and the scorpion. If you're a scorpion's just going to sting, right? So you could try to fight your true nature. It's funny. We've been interviewing a number of people, and on these interviews, I'll sometimes hear about like certain stages they're at in life, and they'll tell me about how they were just like these like super driven, grinding people, and then now they're really trying to slow down and relax and enjoy it. And I'm listening, I'm nodding along, and I'm like, okay, let me know how it goes.
Yeah.
Right? Because you are trying to drift away from your true nature rather than just embracing who you are.
Yeah.
Right? And if you ask this type A hard-charging person to just like go on the beach and sip martinis and just say, relax now, right? That is very stressful to them, as opposed to them being in the moment, like pursuing some challenge or goal. That in many ways makes them less anxious.
Yeah.
So I would say that in my experience, it's always important to have like the next goal lined up before you finish the current goal, right? So I'm the type of person where if I don't have something lined up next, then that in-between period is a very dangerous period of time, meaning that let's say you achieve a fitness goal. If you don't have the next goal in mind already, then this is why like a lot of people, when they like say they run a marathon, they finish running the marathon, but they don't have the next one already on the calendar, then they start to kind of like lose their fitness and they start eating junk food, and then they get all sloppy until they start to get this next challenge on the calendar, and then they start getting back into routine.
Yeah.
And the only way that you can stay and maintain those habits is to always have that next challenge lined up. So you just got to find out what that next challenge is to you. And sometimes it doesn't have to necessarily even be in the business. Maybe you take on a personal challenge. You know, maybe it's a personal health goal. Maybe it's a fitness goal. Maybe it's something unrelated. Yeah. Maybe you decide to take on a hobby. But something new that is, kind of stimulates that neuroplasticity in your brain, creates these new pathways. Something that you have to, when I think of what is a challenge is generally something that you don't presently have the skills or capabilities to be able to take on. That means you have to gain new skills and capabilities. So it forces you to learn. Maybe you say, hey, I'm going to take on this challenge of becoming really adept at AI and leveraging AI, which could be beneficial for you personally and beneficial for the law firm. And it's something that pushes you to be uncomfortable because you have to learn new skills. So figure out what that is. Or maybe you get a dog, right? And you're like, I'm going to take on a challenge, I'm going to raise an animal. But I do think at the very least that it's important to have that next goal and that next challenge lined up as opposed to having nothing.
Yeah.
Because if you just sit there and enjoy it and hope that the next thing's going to come to you, then that's a very dangerous place. And this is where, especially in law firms, the firm can become less competitive, the organization can become complacent, then, things are good now, but are they going to be good 6 months from now or a year from now? It comes back to a business is always growing or dying. There's only two directions. There's no let's enjoy the moment.
No.
That does not exist. I wish it did, but the reality of it is that either you're becoming more competitive or less competitive. And that's the tough thing about business. It doesn't stop. There's no off season. There's no hey, it's summer vacation, so we're going to take that time off because nobody else is taking that time off. And what that means is that you're either becoming a more effective organization, you're developing your skills, you're developing your capabilities, or you're not doing those things and one of your competitors is, which makes you less competitive. So you just have to decide, are we going to be growing? Are we going to be on this path of continuing to grow the business? Or are we going to be becoming stagnant and then
irrelevant.
In decline?
Yeah.
And you do that long enough and you do become irrelevant. So there is no middle ground. And that's why, it doesn't mean you should always be, stressed out and anxious.
Correct.
Maybe.
Maybe. Some people work well that way.
Maybe only the paranoid survive. There's a part of me that just completely disagrees with what I just said.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of it. But at the same time, I would just come back to the fact that, yes, have that next challenge lined up, figure out what that is for you. But it also doesn't mean you can't enjoy the moment. You could just say, look, I already know what the next challenge is. And I know, I'm going to enjoy it for this period of time, right? A couple weeks. And then on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But without having the next thing lined up, a couple weeks becomes a couple months. And then before you know it's a year, and then you're right back to where you started.
Yeah.
So you can give yourself time to enjoy what you've accomplished with the next thing already in mind.
All right. And to round us out today, the question number 3, Michael, my family law practice has been doing well recently. We've grown steadily, won some good cases, and recently expanded our team. But every time I see a competitor land a high-profile case or see their success on social media, I start questioning whether we're really as successful as I thought. We just had our best quarter ever, and I know we've achieved a lot, but I can't help but feel like we're falling behind. How can you tell if you're pacing for growth compared to your competitors? A lot of focus, not on themselves.
Insecure is this one. All right. So how can you tell? Who cares?
Yeah.
It's interesting the mindset that one can have. I think there's 2 mindsets you can have. You can have one mindset of competition and another one of collaboration. And you can't be competitive. And whenever you have this competitive mindset, which is what most business owners, most law firm owners have, it's always looking at what is somebody else doing. I've seen lawyers obsess over other lawyers. They watch their videos, they go to their websites, they know more about these other lawyers that they probably know even about their own practice and their own metrics and their own KPIs. And they know what all these other firms are doing because they think, I always got to keep an eye on the market, right? And there's probably some truth to that, but the reality of it is that you don't control what another law firm does, but you do control what your law firm does. Just win, baby. That's just what it is. That all you should focus on is what do we need to do to continue to grow and improve, and then your competition becomes irrelevant. That's the secret to all this, right? Because I remember when I was starting out Crisp, I was thinking about here are all of our competitors, and then we entered legal, and then I was always thinking about here's who all these competitors were, and how can we ever compete with them? They've been around longer than we have. They have more resources than we do, and I knew everything. I knew every conference they were speaking at. I knew every time anything new they would want, when they'd update their website, I knew about it. I probably visited their website more than their clients did. I knew every single thing about them. I was subscribed to all their their emails and their newsletters and just everything. I would obsess about them. And all that did would, I think, in many ways, prevent us from innovating. Because I was just thinking about what someone else is doing, and then you start to think, okay, well, how do I do a better version of that? As opposed to, how do I create something new in the marketplace that is truly innovative? And once I started going that route, man, you couldn't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Because then it came to a point where we were just going to chart our own path based on what we felt would be of value to our clients and to our industry. And we focused on us to the point where I had no idea what these other guys were doing. I wasn't at the conferences. I wasn't at the newsletters. I really didn't even give a shit. And what was interesting was we started to grow so quickly. I remember a few years down the line, we had outgrown one of our biggest competitors by like probably 5x. And it hit me at one point. I think we were out to dinner. I was like, I don't know the last time I thought about them. It's probably a few years. I hope they're doing well. It wasn't even like in a negative way, but they just become so irrelevant to us. It just didn't make sense. So that would be my advice, is just focus on you and your firm. And there's just a lot of insecurity out there. I would say that a lot of people that you guys listen to on social media and that you follow on social media, if you actually knew what their life is like and you actually knew what's in their bank account, you would be very disappointed that you were taking advice from them. You really don't know how somebody else is doing. You don't know if they're necessarily happier than you are. You don't know if they're more successful. I'll tell you, some of the most successful people I know operate in the shadows. Yeah. Like, they're quiet about their wins and like their success, and they are doing big money, like 9-figure, 10-figure money, and you'd never know it. And sometimes if you were to ask them and say, hey, why don't you share that? Why don't you talk about it? And they're like, because I don't give a shit.
No.
I'm not doing this for anybody else. I'm not doing this for likes and shares on social media. I'm just focused on winning. And that's it. So if you adopt that type of mindset and that type of mentality of focusing on what needs to happen for our practice to become more successful and to support our clients, support our community, et cetera, and just win, then before you know it, your competition becomes irrelevant. You no longer care about what they're doing.
Exactly. That's all we got today.
All right, until next time.
You've been listening to the Game Changing Attorney podcast with Michael Mogill. If you found this episode valuable, here are 3 free ways that we can help you grow your law firm. Number 1, download the first chapter of Michael's book absolutely free at gamechangingattorney.com. Number 2, you can shoot Michael a text at 404-531-7691 and ask him any question you'd like. You might just hear the answer on the next episode. And finally, number 3, if you can leave this podcast a 5-star review, it will help us gain access to more influential thought leaders and bring their lessons learned here to you. For more information on this episode, see the show notes in your podcast app or visit legalpodcast.com.